welcome to The View from Abroad. I'm Teresa Norton, and this is the podcast that looks back at columns I wrote, which appeared weekly in Hong Kong South China Morning Post back in the 1990s, and they covered, everything from the fine art of flirting to freedom of speech. I mean, most of them were kind of funny. Some of them were emotional, a little, poignant, and some of them still very on point, I think. A few of them feel out of step with today's world. And, that's why we're looking at these. I ask a guest to choose one of the columns, and we get a chance to unpack it to see what has changed in the world and maybe in ourselves as well. So my guest today is joining us from London. Justine Mitchell is an Irish native. She's an actress who's appeared in feature films alongside Jodie Foster and Benedict Cumberbatch. And she's been on Dairy Girls, Bad Sisters, and in Smother as Elaine Lynch. She received an IFTA nomination as Best Supporting Actress. So we're going to have her with us. And, with so much time spent in the spotlight, you may be surprised to hear which column Justine chose. Sprouting and Shrinking Violets. I don't know, maybe I'm nuts, but it seems my daughter's grown enormously over the summer. It didn't hit me when we went to get her school uniform or when we shopped for new shoes. There isn't a whopping big gap between one pencil mark and the next on the frame of the kitchen door where we chart periodic height measurements. And it isn't the fact that over the summer she lost 3 more baby teeth. If anything, the jack-o'-lantern effect when she smiles emphasizes her youth. Having said that, it is something to do with the smile, the frequency of it, the confidence in it, and the way it is being beamed towards new faces. You see, our girlie has always been shy, something my husband and I found hard to fathom given his self-assuredness, and my son Sam's and my propensity to strike up a conversation with a fern if it appears to be living. My friends can attest to Grace's history of quiet reserve, as even with our dearest pals, she would tuck her tongue firmly in her cheek and inspect the floor for cracks rather than say hello or confess her age. She was never quiet with her peers and certainly had no problem voicing her opinions to her older brother, but the word reticence springs to mind when I picture her around adults. Being wary of strangers is not a bad thing for a kid to be. Almost every fairy tale ever written reinforces that message. But it's puzzling when your kid's nature is so different from your own. I was standing on chairs telling jokes at my parents' dinner parties when I was about 5. They practically had to strike a gong and bring out a hook to get me off. I have a report card from the 6th grade that reads, "It is a constant battle for center stage." And later that year, the theatrics increase, but so does the quality of her work. And finally, I hope Teresa joins the drama club. This shy business was unfamiliar, to say the least. I asked Grace when she was about 3 or 4 why she was so shy with grown-ups, and she replied, "They're so big and I'm still little. I won't be shy when I'm bigger." Over the summer, I worried that our shrinking Violet would suffer being left to fend for herself with folks she sees but once a year once her brother left us for his solo adventure in Europe. Wrong again, Mommy. Our Violet blossomed. No longer surfing on the wake of her brother's personality, she leapt into situations with both feet, eyes wide open and jaw in constant motion. We were not the only ones to notice. I received a call from her piano teacher, who was astounded by the change. "She seems to have grown up so much this summer," Ms. Law observed. "Usually she's so quiet, but she just chattered away from the moment she arrived. It's lovely to see her so confident." We had friends over for dinner the other night, and she gave her brother a run for his money in the entertainment arena, greeting guests at the door, taking coats and drink orders, passing hors d'oeuvres. And while she's content for the time being to be magician's assistant when her brother performs card tricks, I think he'd better watch his back. There's a new kid in town. As I watched her whiz around the room with a bowl full of tortilla chips, I wondered if Grace was ever really shy or just waiting to get a word in edgewise. We are drawn to outgoing friends, and there is certainly never a shortage of opinions or punchlines around our dinner table. Or maybe she was just biding her time and, true to her word, waiting until she got bigger. In either case, while I'm happy for her newfound confidence, I'm grateful to have had both little girls. The little one with her tongue in her cheek and her eyes on the floor taught us to appreciate how hard it can be for shy people in a world where squeaky wheels get both the oil and the spoils. And this new one, well, get out the gong and the hook. It's showtime. Justine, it is so nice to have you on this podcast.
Oh, Teresa, thank you so much. It's incredible to be here.
I think you were about 15 or 16 years old when we first met, and you were coming to an audition with your mother to be in some interactive mystery theater craziness that my partner, Hillary King, and I were writing and producing.
Yes, the legend, yes.
The legend Hillary King. So, I mean, do we get the claim to fame to giving you your first professional job then?
100%.
It was I think we paid the actors 1,000 Hong Kong dollars a piece to do that show. But that was for rehearsals and everything. I got to tell you a funny story about that. Little sidebar here. Hillary and I wrote about 7 of these very psychedelic shows. And my lawyer said, I think you should copyright these. And we said, okay. And I mean, it cost like 25,000 Hong Kong dollars to do this. So we're sitting, and they were, as you may recall, these things were mostly improvised. There were some staged events, and then the actors had a background, and then they improvised with the audience who were trying to guess who committed a crime. So we're sitting in this lawyer's office, and I mean, it's that thick Wimbledon green carpet, big oak conference table, the lamps, brass lamps with the green glass. And as door opens up for us to drop all this cash to copyright these things, we both look down at the script, and the first thing it says is, B.B. Divine's Sweet Secrets of Youth. Number 1, the soup is served, Shandy goes to the toilet. And that's what we were copywriting. And you were Shandy. Dr. Steiner attacked me. That was your big line. Oh, my gosh. Well, anyway, you've come a long way, baby. So this column, what's it about? It's about growing up, growing more confident.
Yes, I really responded to the coming of ageness of it all very much. Yes.
Talk to me about that.
There's something about there's a plot point in the column where your son goes away to Europe. That seems to be the plot point for me, because your daughter then, there's a space, there's a caveat there where she steps into, maybe, and I don't know whether that was, you don't even know. I mean, maybe you know now with you've been able to talk to her about that time, but was that her stepping forward into the limelight, that he had left? Yeah, and does she come of age? Is it a time of maturing, or does her, because there's a kind of feeling of her casting being changed. That in family units, we have our casting, right? And you're told enough times that you're the quiet one. Well, then I guess I'm the quiet one. But then I guess as you get older and you start meeting other people, you go, actually, I think I might be my own casting director now. I might change my casting. And did she do that? I don't know. It's kind of really interesting, isn't it? Stepping into her own identity.
It's really fun talking to you about this from sort of a theatrical standpoint, like plot points and the roles that we play in our lives and in our families. Absolutely. Okay, a few questions for you. Are you an only child? Do you have siblings? Where did you fall in that?
Eldest. I'm one of 2. And I've got a brother who's 4 years younger.
Well, Grace was 3.5 years younger, is still 3.5 years younger than Sam. So was he surfing in your wake, did you feel at all? Or?
I think so, yes. And I don't like to speak for him, of course, but I think he would agree. Definitely. I was jazz hands. He was quieter, definitely.
Yeah.
But I guess one of the reasons why I wanted to be an actor so young, I think, was that because it made me feel more myself when I wasn't myself. When you're an actress, people think you're extroverted. And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm not. I'm quite shy.
You're quite shy.
Yes, yeah. Weirdly. But, there's a lot of masking, I think. Yes.
Well, there's that line about the squeaky wheels get the oil and the spoils. And I think if we're looking at what still feels relevant and current today in this column and what doesn't, I think there's an awful lot of research that's been done about debunking that notion that being extrovert equals being confident, for one thing, because you can be very outgoing and be very insecure. But there's also the notion that there are advantages we recognize now to being more introverted. There are skills that introverts have that people that are extroverted don't necessarily possess. Listening skills, for one, which is an actor, the pinch and the ouch, right?
The pinch and the ouch? I've never heard that expression.
Oh, I have a director friend. Actually, he teaches acting in London, Scott Williams, and he talks about the pinch and the ouch. He does Meisner training, right? And that idea that acting is really all about how you're affected by the other person.
Yes.
And in order to receive the pinch, you have to have your attention on the other person.
Yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, why are all the really the interesting writers peripheral figures within their own communities, shall we say, and also a lot of queer a lot of great writers are queer, because they were othered and are on the outside of their communities and be able probably the only privilege of being left out, shall we say, from the majority is that you can look into them and go, wow, you guys are like this. I'm going to write this down. I'm going to show you who you are.
Skills of observation.
And that's something I've learned to do over the years, gotten a little better at. I'm still not very good at, but actually listening to myself, because a lot of that masking and being extrovert was kind of jazz hands, distraction away from what was really going on.
Yeah. And that listening to oneself, I mean, I think that also involves some kindness, extending some grace and kindness to yourself, because there is so much emphasis on getting everything right. That's something today. It may have been true back when I was writing those columns, but it's more exposed today because we're more exposed today. And
yes.
This notion that we've got to get everything right and do everything properly. I was talking to somebody yesterday and I thought to myself, you know what you should do? You should buy yourself a big eraser and keep it where you can see it. And know that it's okay to make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
There's an awful lot of them that can just be erased. Of course, there are things that we can't have do-overs, but, that nagging voice in your head that's telling you you've got to get everything right, that can be a tough one to battle.
Imagine, because it is about, I think we are, and younger people in particular, are picked over in a much more atomized and anatomical way.
Just looking at that whole piece about my daughter and loving both versions.
Yes.
Right. And of course, my kids are adults now. And then, like you don't want to speak for anybody else, but I have their absolute permission to, to take these columns and unpack them a little bit. And that growing up process doesn't stop. Until you die, you should be growing up.
Going back to something you just said about, making mistakes. It's that, isn't it? You've got to let yourself make them. I'm not great at that, but I have gotten better, and I only through growth, sitting in those mistakes, will you learn. And there's something about the difference between, your daughter sounds like she was maturing. It wasn't that she was precocious. Do you know? She was just getting older. She was just growing up. Whereas I may have suffered a little from precocity, because I didn't know how else to be and with grown up. So I just tried to be a grown up super quick. I just acted. I just took the part as a grown up, but I wasn't grown up. I was just being precocious, and that has nothing to do with growth. Yes.
I think we can all look back and see, though, during those wonder years, when you're growing into being whatever kind of a human your destiny that you can't see is taking you towards, right? I think we're all play acting, trying things on. In high school, I had one girlfriend who went to a Catholic school and I went to a public school. So she wore a uniform to school all the time, and I wore whatever crazy phase I was going through. And she used to say, I love seeing you because every time I see you, you're something different. I went through my Cher Bono mode with the feather boas and the big hair, and then the leather jacket period. I went through my hippie thing. And this wasn't over the course of many years. This was like a year of trying different things on. I wonder if that's just the whole process of becoming a human, that you're trying things out.
Yes, I think it is, as long as you know deep down, and again, it's an animal kind of sense, that there is a still point that is Teresa, or is even beyond Teresa, it transcends, that's just your humanity. There's your still point, and then you can be whoever you want, and you can continue on doing that. Why just do that when you're 14? Why not do that when you're 54, when you're 64? Dress as a goth tomorrow. Why not? We're different people every hour. I didn't know that. I didn't know I had a still point.
How did you find that?
How did I find what?
The still point.
I mean, lots of therapy, and meditation is really brilliant. It really is. Sometimes it doesn't work. I met someone the other day who said to me, she said, "Oh, you're doing TM." I said, I am. I do. I go in and out of it. And how many times a day are you doing it? She said, and I said, well, I'm really trying at the moment in the year. I'm trying to do it twice a day. She goes, I'm doing it twice a day too. Do you transcend every time? And I said, no. And she goes, I transcend every time. I went, oh, wow. I don't think it's supposed to be competitive. But
I didn't realize that about myself. I didn't realize I was a competitive person until I noticed that things, well, I don't know if it's yeah, it is competitive. I mean, I can't do a yoga class because even if I have not done anything for 3 years, I have to be the bendiest girl in the room, which means I'm going to injure myself. I mean,
yes.
it's a dangerous, yoga is a dangerous sport for me.
It is. And not to get too serious, though, going back to your point about that kind of compassion for yourself and kindness for yourself, it might be a cousin of that there. There's, you don't have to be the bendiest. You don't have to. Like, why should you, put that pressure on yourself?
Yeah.
I mean, just to be where you are today, which is, I can just touch my ankles.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also getting to an age and a stage, and you don't have to be 70 years old to get there. I mean, I think some people get there sooner than others. But recognizing that, you can be who you are. And for example, there are things about my personality, things that don't bother other people annoy me more than they annoy other people. And knowing that about myself allows me to pause and recognize when that's happening and go, oh, honey, there you go doing that thing you do. Instead of going, there's something wrong with me. No, maybe it's just like that's how you're wired. But if you can recognize it and pause and go, ah, there's me doing that. Do I want to do that?
Yes.
Maybe I can ask for a different thought, right?
It's all about the editorializing, because the feeling of being annoyed, you've absolutely every right to feel annoyed about that. My God, but it's not their problem. It's your problem with them. So you have a problem with them. And the problems, I think, occur from the editorializing on top of the feeling, where you're going, I shouldn't be feeling like that. I'm a terrible person for feeling like that about them. It's just, you're annoyed.
An interesting journey with this. It's so funny to me and interesting to see what comes out of these columns. I think what has changed is, of course, my daughter and my son have grown up, and they're now in their 30s, and one of them is approaching 40. So they've developed into the beautiful humans that they are as grown-ups. But it's for anybody who's listening who has small children, that notion of just recognizing who they are, where they are, that no phase lasts forever. I mean, I know it can be hard to see your kids going through difficult things or growing up what you think is too fast or whatever. I like the idea of that, of marking height growth on the side of a door. I don't know. Did you do that when you were little, to watch?
I don't think we were ever anywhere long enough to do that. But that's a beautiful way. The metric, literally the metric to chart your maturity, on the side of a door frame.
Like if you were going to do that for yourself today and start, at about 5 or 6, as far back as your little mind could remember, and look at how you have grown. That'd be quite a rewarding thing, I think.
The metric, you that's like Einstein discovering the metric to measure your emotional maturity. I mean, wow. Come on, let's do it.
Listen, I think we should take a little break now, because I want to come back after we've had a chance to talk about what you're up to and things that people can see you in. And then we'll get to your story that was somehow stimulated by something in that column. Justine, I got a chance to watch the trailer on YouTube for These Sacred Vows. It's a TV series, right?
6 1-hours, comedy drama. First episode is a dead priest floating in a pool in Tenerife, and you're like, oh, okay. And then there is a back in time, and you realize there is a massive Irish wedding happening in Tenerife, and it's the story of how the priest ends up in the pool, face down.
Wow.
And it is, the writer is a brilliant writer-director, John Butler. I did a sketch show with him years ago in Ireland called Your Bad Self. He's exploring, why are we here? Who are we? How to be happy? Into this kind of mystery about the priest. And each episode focuses on a different character. I'm the mother of the bride, Sandra, who's going through, to put it mildly, a crisis in her marriage and her life. There's something about weddings that, raises the stakes and the temperature. Yeah, that brings that out. And it's rollicking, it's moving, and it's very, very witty.
And you can watch the trailer. All you have to do is go on YouTube and look for These Sacred Vows trailer. Quickly, before we get back to your story in the podcast, also, James Joyce's The Dead is going to be performed like next week. Is that right?
Yes, in Wilton's Music Hall. I'm reading an abridged version of the short story by James Joyce, and baked into the story are some choral songs sung by London's finest LGBTQ choir, the Fourth Choir. They are magnificent. I am not exaggerating. They just fill you up.
So January 20th, 21st, and 22nd, and you can get more information about that if you're living in the London area. Okay, Justine, let's get back to your story. All righty, here we go. That column, what story from your own past came out of
there weren't stories, there were just flashes. Hong Kong, I moved to Hong Kong when I was 12 in 1984 and then went back to Dublin 91. So I did all my secondary schooling there, and story, as I said, sparked something in me because of the coming of age feeling to it. And I did my GCSE drama in Island School in Hong Kong. Brilliant teacher. Miss Boaz was her name. Yes. She was an absolutely brilliant drama teacher, utterly inspiring. You know, I had brilliant English teachers as well in that school. Miss Holgate, who I still see, Miss Foxcroft. All these women who are so important, like yourself and Hilary, you know, just mentors and guides. And
I go back to thinking about you turning up as a 15 or 16-year-old and your mother coming with you to that audition, which I thought was really very wise of her. I mean, you know, you were a kid, and was she a protective mom? Would you say she was a pretty protective mother?
God, that's such an interesting question, because maybe she knew I was a bit wild. I was wild. I really was.
Were you?
Yes. I used to go out at night and say I was going to see a movie. And in those days in Hong Kong, if you went to any cinema, they would put the stills pictures outside. So I'd go with my friend and we go and look at the stills picture and it goes, it looks like Sylvester Stallone goes to Vietnam, it shoots some guys, and, you know, we reckon it'll be some kind of, you know, happy America is great ending. So that looks like the plot for that. And so we'd go, okay, great. And then we'd go drinking, I'm afraid. And yeah. I'd come home and then I'd go night to mum and dad, and, you know, and they want to make sure I was home. And then they go to sleepy bubbers and I would get up and I would go out again. I was a
God.
bold girl.
Hong Kong, the drinking and all that stuff started real early in Hong Kong. I mean, kids were going
wildly
to clubs
early.
At like 13, 14 years old. You know, it
fake
was pretty
ID,
insane.
Absolutely, yeah.
I had a fake ID, and in order to make myself look older, I had my hair in rollers with a bandana around it, so I looked like a housewife.
Wait, like you went out like that? You went out?
No, just for the picture. No. That was just for the picture for the ID. But I like the idea of going out like that.
Because, like, you're trying on looks. Like, today I'm going to be a goth. Tomorrow I'm going to be a bit more punk. And then the next day I'm going to dress as a housewife.
I love it.
Slippers, dressing gown.
Well, you know, I think your mother was extremely wise to have come along to that audition and make sure that that's where you were actually going.
Because
yeah. I'll tell you what, my mother said to me at one stage when I was an adult, a young mother with little kids, she said, oh, you know, I loved all of your friends. All of your friends were so nice. There was that one friend. What was her name? Annie? I used to call her Bad Annie. Bad Annie. She was bad to the bone. I'll tell you what. Bad Annie got me in a lot of scrapes and got me out of them too. She was, you were on a magical mystery tour when you went out with Bad Annie, I'll tell you.
I want to see the musical version of that. I want to see the musical version of Bad Annie. The sun will not come out tomorrow because I haven't been to bed yet.
On that perfect note, Justine, thank you for joining us. Such talent. It is a thrill to know how your career has evolved and continues to grow. You can charge that on that little metric thing, can't you? That's easier than the internal growth, I guess.
I'm afraid it is.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, and if you're enjoying The View from Abroad, please do spread the word by sharing, following, liking, commenting on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, blah, blah. You know the drill. It helps us a lot. And I just want to say to you, breathe all the time. Come up slowly. And, wherever you are on that growth chart, if you haven't found your still self, your quiet self, it's okay. The sun will come out tomorrow. And, hey, what if it's good?